everybody. Welcome back to MORE-VILLE, Orville, the podcast that reviews Orville. This is now, I guess we're covering season 3 now, or AKA New Horizons, right? I'm your co-host, Michael, and I've got G.I. Jolie and Champion with me.
Hello, Michael. Hello, G.I. Jolie. It has been a long time since we've done this, hasn't it?
Yes, it has been. It's been days since we've done it. So yeah, I mean, we're not going to go into too much detail, but one huge difference. So basically, this was supposed to premiere in the fall of 2020, but as we know,
is it the fall of 2020 already?
Yeah. But basically, COVID delayed it by 2 years. So yeah, it's now unfortunately off broadcast TV. I liked it being on network TV. It was kind of cool. Now it's just on, oh geez, what is it on now? Like in Canada, it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's on Hulu in the States. It's on Disney. It's on Disney Plus International.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so unfortunately, there's only, I think there's 10 episodes, but that's instead of 12 or 14, there's 10, and instead of being 45 minutes long with commercials, they're 1 hour long with no commercials. So that's like a little bit of a difference. Seth MacFarlane has said that all... Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Seth MacFarlane has said they're going to be like 10 mini movies, and I definitely agree with that. But what were you going to say, Jolie?
Oh no, I was going to say they are also not just dropping them all on our heads all at once, which I really appreciate. This whole...
Right.
Yeah, I can't binge watch shows anymore. There's just no way to retain it.
No.
There's got to be... this is way more palatable, way more acceptable of a way to consume it.
The thing is I like spreading it out because it's 10 times as much buzz, right? And 10 times as much chatter on the internet. And that's what I like. That's why I like spreading it out. But anyway, we are going to talk about the first episode, which of course, it's been so long since we've done this. I completely forgot to open up all my notes. Does anyone know the name of this episode?
This episode is called Electric Sheep.
There you go.
Which is that's a reference to something. It's a Philip K. Dick novel, or short story, or
which Blade Runner was based on.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that is right. That is right.
It's like, do electric sheep dream? Oh, do androids dream of electric sheep?
You got it.
Right.
Yeah.
So Champion is going to tell us what happened in this episode, the season premiere of season 3.
The season premiere of season 3 opens with we return to the Battle of Wolf 359, and the Kaylon are attacking the Union and the Krill as they're trying to save Earth. Now we join up with Marcus running through the hallway as things are exploding all around him. People are getting sucked out into space. He's frantically trying to make it somewhere. And he gets into his room, and he finds his brother Ty, and surprisingly, Isaac is there with him. Isaac opens up his face, and there's a whole bunch of scary teeth, and he tries to bite him. But then Marcus wakes up in a start. It was all a crazy dream. Now, back in the present, the Orville is docked for some repairs and some refit. We've got John Lamar. He goes to the astrophysics lab and he talks to Isaac for a little bit, and he says, we have to do some diagnostics and this and that, and we kind of all assume that this is kind of like your bedroom because you hang out here all the time. And Isaac's like, no, it's cool. You can come here and do whatever you need to do. Isaac goes for a while, give Lamar time to do his job. So he goes down to the mess hall, and he asks a table of crewmen if it's okay if he sits there with them. They say, oh yeah, it's fine. Come on, sit down. As soon as he does, though, they all get up and they all walk away. Shades of basically every time I tried to talk to people at high school myself. But then, a woman that we've never seen before returns and sits down with him. This is Ensign Charly Burke. And she says, hey, that was kind of rude. So I'm going to sit and talk to you for a while. And it sounds for a minute like maybe she's going to be nice. But instead, she tells Isaac a little tale of her best friend, whom she served with on the USS Quimby, which was destroyed by the Kalon during that battle. And she's really upset about it. She tells Isaac, yeah, nobody really likes you very much. It's probably best if you just don't come to the mess hall anymore. Tala, our chief of security, overhears this conversation, and she seems a little disturbed by it. So Isaac gets up and he leaves, and he goes back to the astrophysics lab, where he finds that someone has written the word murderer on the wall in red paint. Now, Tala tries to get to the bottom of this, but whoever did it scrubbed their DNA, and they used a stolen code to replicate the paint. So she tells the captain, look, this is on me. Sorry, I can't figure this out. But also, people are kind of being mean to Isaac, too. In particular, Charly Burke, who the captain calls into his office for a little sit-down. Now, Charlie tells the captain, yeah, not a lot of people are happy with Isaac right now, and you got a bit of a morale problem on your hands. And, Captain Mercer says, yeah, I'm actually kind of on the fence about this decision, too. Like, it's not the sort of thing that a captain should say, but, yeah, I don't know if I made the right decision, but Isaac's got all this knowledge about the Kalon, and we may need him again, and that doesn't seem to smooth things over at all, but... right, so then we go outside the ship where John and his buddies are kind of doing a little spacewalk, fixing some stuff. There's a little bit where Malloy flies around with his new spaceship, and he flies it into the shuttle deck where he sees Charlie, and they're talking about how cool this new spaceship is, and how much cooler it's going to be once Isaac finishes what he's got to do. But then Charlie says, no, that's not cool. You don't want to get his little dirty robot hands on this spaceship, do you? Malloy says, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. So, more people are kind of against Isaac than we thought here. Now, what do we get next here? After this, Isaac seems pretty cool about things, but, he's a robot, so we can't tell if he's like, just not having any feelings, or if he's just being stoic. We have a little scene where Malloy flies his ship around and shoots some targets. And, what do we got next? Oh, yeah. We figure out at this point that Marcus Finn, is the one who vandalized the astrophysics lab. He's not sorry at all. He says that he's having nightmares. He says he doesn't want to be on the Orville if Isaac's there. He's completely unrepentant. So Claire brings Isaac in to apologize to him. Doesn't go over very well. Marcus says, you know what, thanks for the apology, buddy, but I kind of wish you were dead instead. So Isaac goes back to the astrophysics lab, and he records a helpful little suicide note, and then sticks his little robot tentacles into the toaster and fries his brain. Crew finds him a little while later. He's kind of toasty. Yaphet tries to get all up inside him and trying to fix him, but he can't do anything. He apologizes to Claire. Things are looking bleak. They have a little funeral for Isaac, and that's basically that. Like, okay, Isaac's gone. Ty's not handling it very well, and he's been kind of hanging around with a holodeck Isaac, and Claire says, no, that's not cool, and sends him to his room, and then she kind of gets into a little holodeck fantasy of her own, has a little weepy this and that. She's not dealing with it very well. But it's not all bad news. The Orville is done with its refit and flies out into space. John has a little snuggle session with someone who's maybe Pinhead from Hellraiser's daughter, a little spiky girl. And she seems okay with the whole suicide thing. She's like, yeah, we just kind of chill with the memories of our people who have decided that maybe life isn't for me. And this somehow gives John the idea to grab a chip out of Isaac's face and smash it on the ground, which reveals a way to bring Isaac back to life. However, the only person who can help with this is Charly Burke, who hates Isaac more than anyone. Captain Mercer tries to get Charlie on board, but she's not having it. And the Kalon attack, and they fly into a planet. Things are looking kind of bleak, but they blow a shuttle up to distract the Kalon. They fly off. But the attack has destabilized whatever sort of stasis field this little thing that they found in Isaac's brain is. So they got to get Charlie on board right away. And it's eventually Marcus that convinces her, because he's feeling kind of guilty that he's the one that sort of pushed him over the edge. He convinces her, all right, I'll fix this guy using my 4-dimensional whatever powers that she has. And he wakes up and everything's fine. And Claire tells him, look, don't you ever kill yourself again. And Isaac says, okay, I'll never kill myself again. And everyone presumably lives happily ever after. And that's that.
Yeah. So I'll just say that the first thing is we should point out that the tone is a little different from the last 2 seasons, right?
Do you think?
Yeah, there's virtually no humor. Like, for example, one of the regular segments on our show is that we, go over the jokes in the show. I don't think there was a single gag in the show, was there?
The funniest
yes.
bit of the show that I saw. I'm sorry, Jolie.
Oh, there's definitely a visual gag. We should just get it out of the way now, I think, before we talk about the actual episode. Because since there is only one. Personally, with all of the body humor that they do with Yaphet is always hilarious. But he's part of the engineering crew, and the engineering crew is currently on the exterior of the ship. They're all wearing spacesuits because they need to wear spacesuits. And Yaphet is in a spacesuit.
Kid,
he's
that
like
was funny.
molded himself into the shape of a human, and he's like walking around. But then when they all come into the ship, that's a funny visual in itself because it cuts to Yaphet's face, and it's just a helmet with green goo and lips. Hilarious. And then when they come in, he's the only one that like immediately strips off his spacesuit. It just falls to the ground because he's a blob. Like. They had humor. It just wasn't like, it fit the tone. It wasn't, they didn't call attention to it. It just happened. Yes. And I think dedicating the season, or at least the first episode, to Norm Macdonald was really helpful. And like getting out most of the Yaphet funnies in a very subtle way it really was like this episode was a blow to my heart, and it was nice. It made the landing a bit softer for me, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, here's the thing the thing about this episode is that the tone and the pacing were so different. Like when McFarlane said that this was more like 10 mini movies, I agree. Because when you're watching this episode, even the whole opening with like showing the ship and flying around, they kept going back to that, and it was almost to the point that it was borderline padding. But then after a while, I thought, no, it's not really padding. It's more that they're not rushing, so they have the time to just let the story unfold. And the way that it opened up with Isaac and what's her name, Charlie?
Charlie, yes.
The way that all played out, I felt was really natural, and I was surprised that Seth MacFarlane wrote it himself, and then I guess he co-directed it with John Nasser, but everything felt very assured. Like they had a very specific idea in mind for how this was going to play out, and I think it's actually one of the best episodes. I think the writing was really solid. But Ian, what's your first impression?
My first impression, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. It was very cinematic in its structure. It was very cinematic in its visuals. You could tell that the visual effects team had a lot more budget to work with, right. And it looked gorgeous. And there were differences in the way that the interior shots were filmed as well, particularly in the lighting. It was more cinematic there as well. It's going to take me some time to get used to it, though. And that's kind of the thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I get the vibe of, say, moving, since the Orville is a pastiche of Star Trek The Next Generation, I'm going to make that comparison between the television episodes and the films, where the films got a lot heavier and everything just sort of felt different.
Right.
And it's all the same people, and it's all the same sets and all the same locations, but with everything being shot in a different way and everything being lit in a different way and everything just being paced differently, and I don't know, like I enjoyed it, but not as much as I was hoping to. But I think that's just me needing time to adjust to it, because it's completely we talked earlier, I think in a previous episode of the podcast, where you had asked if I had seen. We talked about the trailer, and I had admitted I haven't seen the trailer, and I wasn't going to see the trailer because I kind of like to go into these things completely blind. So I was expecting more of the same. I was expecting a little bit lighter, less robot suicide, less people getting sucked into space, and more jokes than Yaphet being in a spacesuit and John Lamar pulling out a fork from his nightstand.
Right.
I think those are the only humorous bits in the entire episode. Everything else is very, very. I don't know. It's not. It's not bleak for the sake of being bleak, because these are all things that I imagine would have happened on the ship. But it's it's a heavier subject than I was expecting, and I might not have led with it, to be honest. I might have sort of eased us into it.
That's a fair point. One of the things is that last season, when Isaac betrayed the Orville, I commented that it seemed like the next episode he was just back on the bridge and everything was normal, and they kind of sidelined him for a few episodes. But because it was the middle of the season, it's almost like they didn't know what to do with him. And now what they've done is they've made up for all that lost time by having all of the fallback in one episode, right? We're showing that the entire crew hates him. Even Mercer is, hesitant about his own judgment and all this stuff. So it almost felt, well, it made you aware that it was a TV show and that it was being written, because it felt so awkward before that this episode feels like it should have been right after the two-parter. Put it that way. Now, the fact that it's the season opener, you made a good point, Ian. Maybe they shouldn't have opened with this. Maybe they could have hinted at people not liking Isaac for a couple episodes, then jumped into this, right?
Yeah, maybe build that tension a little bit. Like, how come everyone's being salty with Isaac, and then it all comes to a head with this episode when things boil over.
Right. So, Jolie, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I had that conversation with somebody who I had watched this with, and we thought it was a little bit heavy as well, but we had also they'd also been rewatching season 2 with me, and they thought it was really weird that the Kaylon all but destroyed them, and they didn't address it for 2 episodes, and then the show ended.
Right.
So while we talked about season 3, episode 1 being really heavy, it was almost like a huge weight that's been lifted off our shoulders. We both agreed that even though it tonally didn't match what our expectations were, they really needed to address the whole Kaylon, the battle with the Kaylon, because they hadn't, and it felt like they weren't going to.
Right.
And I agree and I disagree. I would have, like most shows when they come back from a long hiatus or a break, usually the first episode is kind of like, like I use Buffy as an example. Buffy versus Dracula was the first episode in, like, I think it was season 5 or 6. And then they just, after that one, after Buffy meets the real Dracula, like that, they play everything for laughs, and Buffy had just come back from the dead. Spoiler alert. Then they got into the heavy right after that. So I can see how a show would benefit from a lighthearted episode and then dealing with something that they really haven't dealt with for 3 episodes or 3 years. Has it been 3 years since season 2, or has it been longer?
I think it's been
3 years.
At least 2, yeah, if not 3, yeah.
Well, if they were going to air in 2020.
Yeah.
It's been at least a few. So, personally for me, just to get to the better stuff, I really, just for my own sake, and it is really just me, this is my own preference, them getting to sort of addressing the anger felt by the displaced crew, the actual humans towards the Kalons was kind of like, it was nice to get it over with, because it's just a big elephant in the room, and it's been a big elephant in the room since before the time travel episodes, really. So
right. Well, okay, so here's the other thing too, is that when you try to tackle subject matter like this, and when you do it, in my opinion, as well as they did, I think it also welcomes more scrutiny. And so, for the most part, I thought the writing was really good. I all the twists were good. I thought the reasoning between the different characters was really well done. It almost reminded me of it was a classic episode of TNG where Worf was the only. I think we talked about this before. Worf had something to do with his blood, where his blood could save a Romulan or something. Do you remember this one, Ian?
Yeah. That's the episode where Geordi was stranded on the planet with a Romulan trying to escape.
Right, and then Worf was ordered to help the Romulan, and didn't he refuse? And the Romulan died, right?
Yeah, he flat out refused, and they died. And it would have been a diplomatic nightmare had Geordi not saved this other Romulan.
So basically, to me, that's a classic episode because it's not really a happy ending, but it's what would happen. It's what could happen in reality. So in this episode, it's similar, but Charlie does in the end help Isaac, but she does say it wasn't for you, implying it was to help the two kids. It was because the older son, basically because of the way he felt. So I thought that was really cool. The fact that it's not like she suddenly learned the error of her ways and learned her lesson. No, it was a compromise. I thought that was great.
I thought it was pretty good. I had
okay.
we're gonna reference that episode of The Next Generation again. Because one of the more compelling parts of that episode, in my opinion, was the fact that Picard did not order Worf to do it. He said it would really make things easier.
Yeah.
And that he should really consider it, but that at the end of the day, it was Worf's decision, and he would face no repercussions if he decided not to. And that put the ball entirely in Worf's hands, and he still said no. But in this case, Mercer ordered Charly Burke to do this, which would have been, something that was completely against her moral code, based on what was a traumatic experience for her, losing her best friend in the way that she did. And I don't know that it was appropriate for Mercer to order her to do this. I don't know. It's I think it would have been a little bit more powerful if he gave her the choice and she still refused.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess in the end, the Star Trek episode is a little bit better written. But this one, at least in that regard, was still pretty strong. The only thing I'm not sure about is, what's his name, Lamar in bed, and then suddenly realizing maybe there could be a, way out of this. And then sure enough, he goes into his brain, and sure enough, there is. I mean, isn't that the first thing you guys thought of? Is this guy is a supercomputer from an alien world of all supercomputers. Of course there's got to be a backup. He's a robot. That's the first thing I was thinking, right? Like, if that happened to me, that's what I would do. But the fact that it took him the entire episode to think of that, and it's not like there was a piece of information that made him realize it was there. It was just the idea that it could be there. And then of course it was there. I thought that was a little bit too convenient. And then, to be honest, was there anyone that did you guys think that they might actually just let Isaac stay dead? Because there was a part of me that was like, oh, I guess he's dead. He's gone.
I thought that was a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, I really did.
They sold it.
Yeah, that's the key. Is they really made you feel like, okay, this is it. This is his last episode. What about you, Joey?
Oh yeah, the way that Claire Finn, once they ended with her. They sort of they cycled through as many feelings as they could, and they ended with her in kind of like their replicator hologram date. And she's sitting there crying at the table. And it felt real. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's logical. There's no turning back from this death. Like he was told that he was told that people wanted to see him dead. And this was his way out. And of course, he's one of the most brilliant beings in all of the universe. Of course, he would find a way to never be able to be revived again. To me, Lamar being able to revive him kind of was like, oh, you outsmarted a superior organism, like, or you know what I mean? Like it just seemed, I didn't buy the whole Lamar thing, figuring it out in bed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because Isaac would have been able to take his life and take it in a way that wouldn't allow him to be revived. I feel like that was it. And then they didn't let that be it.
Right.
I was satisfied with that resolution, and then suddenly that wasn't the resolution. It felt like a comic book death to me, and it really annoyed me.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And also the fact that it was a little convenient that Charlie's introduced and she has 4-dimensional math or whatever. And then later on, we need someone with skills in 4-dimensional math. Sure enough, the new crew member that was just introduced 45 minutes ago, she can do it. That was a little bit, again, that was TV writing, right?
Mm-hmm. And of course, the fact that she's the one that hates him the most, right?
Right. See,
she has the skills and the conflict.
I actually don't, I don't mind. I mean, it's sort of a plot contrivance, but it's also makes it more dramatic. The fact that she's the only one that can help him, but she also hates him. Of course, it is TV writing, but I thought that was, at least it makes it stronger. But it felt like the other part of it felt convenient. The fact that she also had this 4th-dimensional math skills or whatever it was.
Visualization.
Yeah, visualization.
The ability to visualize in 4D.
Right.
Which, like, what the hell is that even?
What is right? They made it up, and they still didn't show us what that looked like.
Right. And they didn't even try, and that's something else that kind of it didn't. It was just like, oh, that was a little lazy. It took her. Was it like that scene was 10 seconds long, and like, oh, it's done. Like, oh, Isaac wakes up. You could have put a little bit more will it or won't it work in there, not just like, okay, she's hitting some buttons and here he wakes up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that classic thing of you give her an obstacle to overcome that is virtually non-existent, and then she overcomes it, and then you congratulate her for it. But what did she do? Nothing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it might have been a magic wand for all that mattered to the story at that point,
exactly.
Right?
100%.
And for the level that it was explained to us what it was.
Right. Now, the other thing I want to point out,
I would have bought a magic wand well more.
Right. So here's the other thing. Ian, you technically still have not seen the trailer for the season, right?
Technically, that is true.
Okay, because I'll tell you right now that what the trailer was, you know the opening scene of, what's the older brother's name?
Marcus.
Of, him getting attacked and running around the ship. The whole opening 5 minutes, that was the trailer. They just showed that as the preview for season 3. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is turning into like Star Trek Discovery. It's just going to be all warfare and all this. Now, the fact that opened the episode and it turned out to be a dream is one of my least favorite tropes of fantasy, sci-fi, superhero fiction. When we have a sequence where like, oh my God, everyone's dead. Oh, it was just a dream. Whatever, we're fine. Now, the fact that they also used that as the preview for the season, I thought was a cheat. Like, using it as the opening is fine, but using it as the preview for the actual season was a big cheat, I thought. Because it could have been anything, right? They could have had an opening dream sequence of, Isaac slashing everyone like Jason Voorhees, and then, oh, it's a dream, and then we use that as the trailer just to shock everybody, right? So I thought that was kind of cheap. But...
Well, I haven't seen it still, so I don't know. Well, I guess I have, though.
Yeah, I guess,
but,
up until the moment that he wakes up.
Yeah, I can see that it doesn't reveal anything at all about anything.
No, because, yes, we know that he's a little bit scared of Isaac, but there was probably far less expensive ways to show that. Like, him just walking into the room with the red eyes would have been enough. Really. But anyway, okay, let's talk about, do you guys want to talk about the new regular cast member, Charly, what is it, Charly
Burke.
Charly Burke. You want to talk about her?
Yeah, let's talk about her.
Okay, Ian, what do you think?
I'm on the fence.
Okay.
I'm on the fence. She's the acting wise, she's just fine. She's a I don't know who she is, who the actor who plays her is, but I was convinced by everything. But in terms of her character, I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know. Like she's just a little for an ensign. She's a little cavalier with her opinions. She's a little I don't know, talking back and not respecting the captain's wishes, and it's just we'll see. I don't know. That's all I got so far.
Okay.
Yeah,
fair.
she really takes the permission to speak freely. She really stretches that permission.
She ran
I
with
thought so
it,
too.
yeah.
I thought so too, that it was so weird that she was addressing, or the way that she spoke to the captain and Kelly. It's just so candidly. I
Right.
get it. Everyone suffered, and he kind of gave it to her. He was like, "Look, everyone lost somebody, but you need to get over it. We all are dealing with the same feelings. Someone lost somebody, but we have to move on as a crew. There are
Right.
more important things than this, while one of them being how to handle, because it's like he had to make probably the worst decision ever, which was to wake up or reinstate Isaac. But now there's crew members from all these other ships who are just giving him grief. And then to find out, I would be as mad as him too. To find out that everybody in the mess hall is pretty much just treating Isaac like a pariah.
Right.
So as far as Ann Winters, that's the actress's name. I don't know her from anything either. I think I've seen some things that she's in, but she's not a standout. The character, I agree with Ian, where I'm not sure. I don't like her dynamics. I don't like that she's potentially going to be played as a love interest for Gordon Malloy, because their thoughts and morals align about Isaac, and they already work so close together. They literally work side by side. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel. I mean, she certainly fits in less than Tala Kiale at this point, who just is, now that I don't even think about her the way I used to. She's just seamlessly part of the old team now. But like, yeah, Charly Burke, not sure yet. She's not giving me Michael Burnham vibes, but she's certainly not giving me Tilly vibes. So let's see.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about it
No
either.
tea, all shade.
Obviously,
All tea, all shade.
like I liked her in this, but yeah, I guess my only question is, where is she going to fit in? That's my question, because obviously for this episode she was very crucial to the plot, but now where is she going to fit in going forward, right? That's my question, I guess.
And is she
And
going to
what-
maintain this sort of, I don't know, a rebellious thorn in the side kind of an attitude about her, or if this
Right.
is just about the Isaac situation?
Right. Now, one other thing I want to talk about, we did talk about the sort of different style of shooting and maybe improved effects. On top of all that, I felt like, I mean, we just rewatched season 1 and 2, and those were shot, they were for TV, whatever. I'm assuming they were full quality. This episode looked like it was in like 16K. It looked incredible. Did anyone else notice a difference in the quality of the actual like image?
Yeah. I was like, well, somebody's got more money for season 3.
Yes.
Worlds more. And I mean, it's been documented that they poured way more money into season 3 for this one, like millions. So I'm not surprised.
That's the thing. I mean, I like to not be I'm not a technophile or a technophile, is it? Like, I don't care that much about stuff like that, but geez, watching this show, I was just like, ugh. See, like, I'm looking at it right now. Oh, here we go. Wow. Season 1. Okay, check this out. Season 1 and 2 were shot in 720p.
Really?
That's crazy. And season 3 is only 1080p. I honestly would not have been surprised if they said 4K. That's shocking. Wow.
Yeah, I think, how is it described to me? It was like watching the new Star Treks, the Chris Pine Star Treks.
Right.
The visual, like the way that the cinematography was. Everything's bright, everything's still colorful. I mean, obviously, like less of those light leaks, but it was like watching really, really good Star Trek. If Star Trek was super dramatic,
Right.
and like had really good dialogue and conversation between characters.
Yep. I agree. No, there's also one more tech thing. It's possible they're shooting in 4K and broadcasting in 1080p. I don't know, but still, it looked incredible. So yeah, I guess there's now again. What the good thing is now they've wrapped up this Isaac thing, so they can move on to the next thing. So I think next week will be more of like not a shock, but we'll kind of get to see where the series is going from here on in, right?
I hope it lightens up a bit. I mean,
Yeah.
if this is what we've got for the entire season, this sort of tone, I'm not as enthusiastic about it, to be completely honest. Because one of the things that I loved about the Orville was that it was lighthearted and that it always had a little tongue in cheek, that always had something to chuckle at around the corner. And I was kind of thinking, like, I almost invited a friend of mine who had never seen the Orville to watch this episode with me. And I'm glad that I didn't, because it would have made a liar out of me. Every single thing that I said about this show was not at all what we got here.
Well,
so I'm hoping it lightens up a bit.
You know, what's frustrating is I actually asked a few people about the show, and they said, oh, no, I would never watch the Orville. I hate Seth MacFarlane. Well, at this point, any vestiges of Family Guy-esque humor are gone, right? Like, this is straight drama now. So if anyone's out there listening and you hate Seth MacFarlane, now's the time to start watching the Orville, right? There you go. I don't know. Any other final words, Jolie?
Well, let's just say I may or may not have read that they're going to be exploring more of Saleya. So get ready.
More of what?
We're the planet Saleya.
Oh, okay.
So get ready, friends. We're going back. We might see Alara again. I think we're gonna see Alara.
Well,
this universe is Alara. Whatever universe, yeah.
Yes.
I'm all I think we're in safe hands. I mean, again, this was only one episode, so I think we're in safe hands, and I'm not worried. So I'm super pumped from next week. But I guess that wraps up our review of this week's episode, right, guys?
I only have one question about this episode.
Okay.
Sure.
Where the hell was Bortus? Where was Bortus?
He was there, barely.
I think I remember
with
from one scene. And
Isn't that weird?
was Dan anywhere? Did Dan do anything at all today? This episode?
Oh, I didn't see
One
Dan.
scene.
Lieutenant Dan was there?
There was a pan where someone ran across the screen and Dan looks up and turns. And I screamed with joy.
Sweetness.
Awesome.
See, okay, I have one thing to worry about. Everyone else is worrying about the tone. This is what I'm worried about. Apparently this season, they did not film it in chronological order. They filmed it. What they would do is they would go, okay, we've got these 5 actors available. Let's shoot all of their scenes for the entire season. Okay, now we have Bortus. We're going to shoot all of his scenes. So it's possible that maybe certain actors were like only available for a certain amount of time. And so maybe they were like, well, we don't really need Bortus in this episode, so we'll just shoot a quick shot of him over here so we can throw him in. That's possible. And I hope it doesn't affect... Yeah.
That's distressing. Because
That is
you
distressing.
need Bortus in every episode.
I agree.
Sorry.
Trust me, 100% agree. I just hope it doesn't affect the quality of the show. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Because if this keeps happening every episode, like if Bortus and Lieutenant Dan are missing from every episode, I'm gonna be visibly upset.
Really?
Okay?
I mean, we saw Bortus for one scene. We didn't see Clyden at all.
Right.
I miss that guy. Come on, give us a little Clyden. Nah.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up. There you go. MORE-VILLE, Orville, number 27. We're going to be back every week to review the entire season 3, so be sure to join us. You can find every episode of the show reviewing the first 2 seasons up until now on www.comicbooksyndicate.com. We drop a new episode. Actually, we kind of have an erratic schedule, but I guess it'll be every Saturday, maybe. Maybe it'll be every Wednesday. We haven't decided that yet, so
one of these days it'll be every one of them.
We'll overdub something in later. But anyway, so until next week, there's more where that came from.